Good morning, Tech fam. It's Monday, July 7th, and you're listening to Fly Tech Daily, the podcast that makes your morning smarter in 10 minutes or less. I'm Nick.
And I'm Michelle. We're starting the week with big news about TikTok's US future, some foldable phone flare, and why Microsoft's layoff advice just sparked a storm.
For our first topic, TikTok may finally have a solution to the US ban, and it includes a new app.
For our second topic, Samsung is getting serious about foldables with its most ambitious models yet.
For our third topic, Apple's pushing back against 580 million EU fine over its App Store rules.
For our fourth topic, Trump Mobile is dialing back its boldest claim about Made in America.
And for our fifth and final topic, a Microsoft executive suggested layoff workers turn to AI for emotional support. And not everybody's feeling it.
Let's fly.
For our first topic, TikTok is quietly prepping a new US-friendly app to dodge a nationwide ban.
A new report says TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is close to a deal to spin off a version of the app to a group of non-Chinese investors, likely led by Oracle to comply with US law.
They're reportedly working on a whole new app internally dubbed AMP2, set to launch September 5th. The old TikTok app would then vanish from the App Store and stop working entirely by March 2026.
The US passed a law requiring TikTok to divest from Chinese ownership or face a ban, citing national security concerns, but China has its own laws restricting tech exports, so it's complicated. So Nick, what's the takeaway for our TikTok users?
TikTok 2.0 is coming, and it might look the same, but it's legally born in the USA.
For our second topic, Samsung is betting big on foldable phones with its July 9th Unpacked event.
Rumors point to an ultra-branded Galaxy Fold with a slimmer profile, plus a revamped flip with a full front screen like the Motorola Razr.
The goal? Make foldables more compelling for regular buyers. Right now, they're just a 1.5% of the global smartphone market, and most people are just curious, but they're not buying.
Foldables still cost more and are harder to repair and aren't as durable as regular flagships, but with Apple's rumored to launch its own foldable by 2026, Samsung wants to regain its momentum before then. So Michelle, what's the takeaway for our number one Korean tech company?
Samsung's folding phones are leveling up, and this might finally be the flip that sticks.
For our third topic, Apple's appealing a 580 million euros fine from the European Union over its App Store.
The EU says Apple violated antitrust rules by blocking developers from steering users to external payment options. Apple says the fine is unprecedented and the rule changes are unlawful.
Apple did tweak its app stores in Europe last month to comply, but only to avoid more penalties. They're still fighting the fine itself, calling out digital markets to act as overly aggressive.
This is part of a bigger trend. EU regulators are targeting big tech on everything from competition to privacy. Apple's not the first and won't be the last to push back. So Nick, what's the takeaway for our Apple listeners?
Apple's clashing with the EU over who controls your app purchases and your wallet.
For our fourth topic, Trump Mobile's Made in the USA phone made not so much in the USA after all.
The company recently scrubbed Made in USA from its site and now says the phones are simply designed with American values. Tech experts say the specs match a phone made by a Chinese manufacturer.
This comes after Trump Mobile announced the $499 T1 8002 smartphone last month, promising to bring manufacturing back to America. Now, even screen size and memory specs are changing.
It's not uncommon for companies to stretch terms like build or design. Apple does it too, but saying it's US made when the core parts come from China, that's a stretch. So Michelle, what's the takeaway for all our MAGA listeners?
Trump Mobile's phone may be gold colored, but its origins are looking pretty gray.
And for our fifth and final topic, after mass layoffs at Xbox, one Microsoft executive advised workers to get career help from ChatGPT.
In a now deleted LinkedIn post, executive producer Matt Turnbull suggests using AI tools like Copilot to rewrite resumes, plan job searches, and even handle imposter syndrome.
While well intentioned, many saw it as tone deaf, especially since Microsoft is investing 80 billion in AI while cutting thousands of jobs.
The post included AI prompts for emotional clarity and networking outreach, but critics say it reduces human struggle to generic chatbot advice. Others called it cold, especially in creative industries. So, Nick, what's the takeaway for our Microsoft users?
AI might write your resume, but it can't rewrite the reality of layoffs.
All right, Nick, so hit us with the takeaways as we start off this new week.
For our first topic, TikTok is splitting into two new apps, one to keep your dance videos and one to dodge the ban.
For our second topic, Samsung's new foldables might finally bend the market in their favor.
For our third topic, Apple's App Store fight with the EU is about who gets to charge you, Apple or developers.
For our fourth topic, Trump Mobile's Made in America claims are starting to look outsourced.
And for our fifth and final topic, Microsoft says use AI for job loss recovery, but humans aren't ready to hear from bots. So that's it for another Flat Tech Daily. 5 fast stories, 1 smooth scroll. If today's pod make you think about twice about your phone screen size or who really owns your app store, go hit that 5-star button. Until next time, peace.